Well, tonight's topic is development, and we're going to talk about the effects of COVID, the effects COVID has had on our kids, as well as the benchmark ages and stages. We'll also be talking about raising resilient kids and how everyday activities count as learning.
That's right. And first up, we have Dr. Tony Petrano from Century Airport Pediatrics here. And Dr. Tony, you are easily one of our favorite people ever. We've trusted you with our children, and we know how great you are, and we just love you to pieces. And it's great to see you on here. Thank you. You know, the biggest worry that parents have right now in this pandemic is really about how it's affecting their child's development. COVID really, you know, kind of can play a role, but can you talk a little bit about the role that it plays in the development for babies and toddlers right now?
Sure, I think we're going to break it up into age groups, but overall, our focus is on birth to 3 years old tonight, and we haven't seen much illness in this age group, so that's pretty fortunate. But we have seen a lot of family strife and developmental issues that I think are, you know, hard to recognize on the surface. And when we go through each age group, we'll sort of touch on that. But human interaction without face masks is a big thing for little people. And so we'll want to stress which ages that's most important and how we can maybe modify some of our precautions, but still maintain being cautious. So it looks like on the screen you have an introductory slide, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's different, yeah, there we go. The first 4 months, you'll notice we're starting out at 4 to 6 months over on the right-hand side, and a little chart from birth to 16 or 18 months on the left. So just focusing on the first 4 months, 0 to 3 or 4 months, it's pretty straightforward that there's not much going on developmentally that we can impact other than making babies comfortable. So again, if the COVID virus has caused us to not be able to have moms and babies together as often as possible, then that would be an issue. If babies are not able to see faces, because as early as 6 weeks, you know, we get that social smile. I think you see that on the chart, but at 6 weeks of age, roughly, you know, 4 to 6 weeks after a due date, babies have what's called that social smile, which means it's not they have to poop, but they can see a face, recognize something, and then smile back at it. So again, you know, mask wearing by a parent or guardian or caretaker might hinder that process, which is a normal process in human beings, and who knows what happens when you deprive infants of that. Also, again, the ability for parents and moms in particular to be home with the babies in this age group, since there is what we call a reflex memory, where they remember only things that are there all the time. So there's no day-to-day memory in the first 3 to 4 months. There's no teaching that really goes on because you don't have a day-to-day memory, but there is this reflex memory that makes babies comfortable with sound and voices and smells. And then again, the smiling faces at around 6 weeks kick in. So really up to 4 months of age, those would be the highlights. And again, we have not seen illness in that age group from COVID, and we have seen parents taking precautions, which is great, but maybe a little less of the mask when you're interacting even with infants. And I think if we go to the next, so now that 4 to 6 month period, which I'm sorry I didn't talk about that as much as I wanted to, so I don't know if you want to go back or not. Yeah, so from 4 to 6 months, we're just looking at the development and behavior section. It's pretty clear that this is the age where babies should be born if we were going to try to really teach and enjoy them, right? So the first 4 months are a struggle often, but then at 4 months it's like a brand new world. So their eyesight is very good. They can, you know, accommodate and focus as well as an adult. They can hold their heads up. They can really stay by themselves without the physical support of the guardian or parent, right? So that facial interaction becomes even more important now. They're able to recognize faces, not so much remember them yet, but this constant back and forth of smiling and cooing and verbal interaction is so much better without a mask. So again, we don't want to encourage people to not wear masks, but caretakers who have carefully followed precautions and who are even maintaining a little distance from the baby, this positive interaction. And again, babies at this age will start to reach and things. So there's a lot of interactive things that begin at 4 to 6 months. And that's important because when you hit 6 months, and we can go to the next one, 6 to 9 month period is where memory really starts. So that really changes the game a bit. This is where they can have some day-to-day memory. If you again look in the development and behavior section on the left-hand side. So when you have a day-to-day memory, you can teach. And again, it says right on your hand of their faces and voices. So babies this age do not understand language. And that's sort of a misconception that they do. What they do is they understand reflection in the voice, right? So this is the classic no, 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 right? And if usually a nice mom with a pretty face and a nice smile says no, 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 the baby doesn't know what the word means and uses the face and voice to determine whether it's good or bad. So again, the facial recognition is so critical in this age group to now not only to console and make babies happy and improve their development, but also to start to teach what you feel is good and what you feel may not be good. So the classic example is, pulling mom's hair. Mom says, no, 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 in a happy tone, and the baby does it again immediately because that was positive feedback. So again, facial recognition is critical. Now the idea of having consistent guardians and consistent caretakers, again, parents have been struggling with going to work and staying home and what should we do? I think the important part there is to have familiar faces present as often as possible, even if it's by photograph or pictures or cell phone pictures, right? Just so the babies do create this memory of the things that you feel are important for them, and especially the people that you feel are important. The other part of the day-to-day memory would be schedules or routines. Up until the 6 month period, babies kind of dictate the routines of sleeping and eating and pooping and when it's time to do everything. But right around 6 months, when there's a memory, they can start to associate what comes next. And so with COVID, we've seen both good and bad. We've seen because parents are home more and caretakers are more consistent at times, they really adapt to a schedule much quicker because each day is the same. So that's been a positive. The negative, of course, is that parents have struggled with individual needs to get out or to go to work and have erratic schedules, and that has led to maybe this age group missing a parent or a familiar face on a certain day when it wasn't expected. So those are pretty much the highlights up to the 9 month visit. And then when we go to the 9 month to 12 month, which is on your screen also, things do change a little bit because children become mobile, and with that mobility comes anxiety. Sounds strange, but if you picture we as adults maybe jumping out of an airplane for fun, why do we do that? Well, I wouldn't, but I'm sure some people have, and they do it because it's exciting and they can. That would be compared to a baby learning to crawl. When they learn to crawl, it's the worst thing in the world for them that they can initiate the separation from their caretaker. It scares the heck out of them, and they all of a sudden use their memory and this new ability to create anxieties about things being different. They don't like changes in schedules. They don't like new babysitters at this age. They don't like really anything new or different because they're starting to become anxious right after they've learned to separate on their own. So it's a learning process, but again, this would be sort of a critical age that if parents are trying to provide consistency and the COVID experience has not allowed them to be consistent with schedules and or people and or using the word no correctly, like we talked about, things can get a little out of hand. So this is sort of a key age group right now that people can take advantage of by keeping routines, realizing that they get a little anxious about new things, and slowly introducing new things instead of randomly and quickly. I don't know if there's any questions at this point, or if we should move on.
Well, why don't we take a minute, Dr. Tony, and just see if anybody has any questions. You can put them in the chat. This is all so interesting, and I love hearing all of it. I have a quick question, because my daughter Maria just recently had a baby, and he's, like 8 months old, and she'll call me and she'll say, "Oh my goodness, he's doing things that a 9-month-old should. He's so ahead." Like, people want to, new moms want to like compare all the time, but you shouldn't worry if your baby's not exactly in these ranges, right? I mean, there's a time to worry, but not right away.
Right, and I think, like you said, these are ranges as you see on the sheet, 6 to 9 months and 12 to 15 months, et cetera. So, but also we didn't really touch on all of the issues because of time constraints. But again, just looking at these developmental milestones, as long as it's within those periods that they develop, then we're very comfortable with that. And yeah, there's a lot of variation. An example would be in the simple motor development, where they roll, then sit, then crawl, then walk, then run and climb, right? That the only developmental part of that that's really important is the sitting. So we know that the variation of those other things, rolling, walking, crawling, is wide, but the sitting would be the specific thing there. So those would be more specific topics to discuss with the individual provider. But yeah, these general concepts, though, are pretty clear. Like, once you crawl, then you get anxious, that kind of thing. So I'm hoping that that's somewhat clear.
Right, and if anybody has any worries, then they should just talk to their doctor, let them know what they think their child might be a little behind on, and
right, and then
they'll let them know what's best.
Sure, and sometimes, again, it's really somewhat based on how much interaction they're getting. Like, an example I might use is that social smile. It's 4 to 6 weeks after a due date, so certainly whether you're born early or on time or late would affect that when that comes in. But also, again, with the mask wearing, I wonder if that will be delayed in some people. And again, is that important or not? We're not sure, but it would seem that if it's a natural process that babies learn to recognize faces and smile, then if we were to restrict that, it might delay the milestone.
Okay, great. You want to continue on with the next ages, Dr. Tony?
Sure. So the 12 to 15 month is, again, a little bit of an extension of what we talked about, where they remain kind of clingy and anxious. And again, with COVID, I think the biggest thing would be the consistency in schedules. Again, that could be a positive thing with COVID, because many families have been put into routines that they don't necessarily like, but it's been routine. So that's good for this age group. And they again, would not enjoy some new thing happening right away, or a change in the plan right away, but they normally wouldn't at this age anyway. So this may be a positive to have routines that don't change much day to day. The interesting part, of course, is when children turn a year of age and have a birthday, the natural human instinct is to change things. Well, we had a birthday, let's change a few things around. So I would encourage people to not do that. And in this age group, again, keeping routines the same, keeping caretakers the same. If we need to introduce a new person or a new routine, you would try and combine it with the old routine for a few days before you decided to remove the original person. Example would be a babysitter. If you had a new babysitter, you'd probably want them to be there for a day or two where the parent does not leave, so that everyone's together. And then the baby or child will accept the new sitter much more happily alone when the parent's not there, if they've had those few days. So again, taking routines somewhat seriously in this age group, and then adding things before taking things away. And again, with COVID, I think it's been an issue where it's easy to do this, but frustrating to do it. But knowing that it helps 12 to 15-month-olds to have those routines is probably a good thing. The pacifiers and bottles would be a good example. To take those away would be difficult during this age, but to add cups and teethers and then take the pacifier and bottle away later would be acceptable to this age group. And then that would lead us into the 16 to 24 months. Now that's a long stage there, 8 months, and there's a lot of variation, as you mentioned, Mary, that goes on in there. So the key, if you again look at the development and behavior section, there's a lot going on there. They're a lot more independent. They don't need the parent as much. They can walk well, run most of the time. They can move upstairs without parent support by crawling or hanging onto a railing. So again, there's this little bit of independence that makes them more comfortable. And then the biggest milestone of all, and this probably is affected by everything we do, including COVID, is during this age group, 16 to 24 months, they do develop the ability to process language in a much different way. And I think that's on the next slide, actually. Yeah, so this is my favorite developmental speech of all, and it applies to the COVID situation in some ways. The key to this age group, at around 18 months, and again, variation of a couple of months, children do start to be able to process cause and effect language. If, then, if, then, if, then. The average parent is correct 3 out of 10 times when they speak to their children of this age. The best example I could use there would be to think of what parents say. We can play a little Family Feud. What parents say when children are climbing onto a cabinet that has some wires, right? Well, the top answers on the board would be stop, don't, get down, you're going to get hurt, right? Well, all of those statements do not have a correct then statement for the child. So if I climb on here, then, well, stop, don't, get down, don't give me any then, so you've piqued my curiosity, and you're going to get hurt. They kind of look at you and say, well, I didn't get hurt yesterday or the day before. So again, you've piqued my curiosity. You haven't given me a correct then, so I must do it because I'm Curious George at this age, right? So now if you take the COVID situation, again, because parents have really been forced to be in more of a routine, which we said has been good, it could backfire if we're only correct 3 out of 10 times. So the key to this age group is if we could do this if-then language and make sure the child hears it through the mask, which is another difficult situation where we think they heard us, but they heard something else. So if-then, if it's correct statement, children this age will listen to everything you say and keep looking for what you're going to do next. So if you climb on there, then I'm putting you in timeout. Well, you can make that happen. You can't make them get hurt, right? And you can really talk to children in this age group all day long using good facial expression to back up your words, but now they actually understand the words. And you can be correct all day for good things and bad things. So if you go in the kitchen, then we can have a cookie. See, I told you, we could have that. If you get your shoes, we can go outside. See, I told you. So the more often a parent is able to nicely say, see, I told you we'd be able to do something nice or positive. Then when it comes time to the negative, if you throw your food, I will take it away and turn your chair around. You do it one time, they'll never do it again because they know you're right. They don't have to wonder what your next move is. So kids this age are curious. They will use your face, your voice, and your language to determine whether they should do something or not. And the more your parents and guardians are consistent, the better this goes. And again, COVID provides an opportunity to be even more consistent, but if we're inconsistent, it would make it worse. So I hope that makes some sense to all watching. And this really applies to every age group after that. It's just that it peaks at that age. And that leads us into the terrible twos, where things continue to be difficult for many parents because the rules are simple but not explained very well. So you take that if-then logic that we used, and we use that for every age afterwards and continue to be correct. But when it comes to the twos, what happens there is the part of the brain that controls or wants to have control or choice is developing rapidly. So if you look at most situations with 2-year-olds, they're given lots of commands, they're given lots of It's time to do this. Let's have some fun. Let's do this. Let's do that. And if there's not a choice involved, they sometimes will say, no, I don't want to, or I don't like that, even when you know they like it, right? Because there was no choice involved. So when we say choices, again, it's got to be clear. They got to be able to hear us. So, and look at our facial expression and move the two things together. And when we say something, we should give choices. We shouldn't change our mind or add choices or take them away. The best example I can give would be, it's time for food or dinner or lunch, and you can put out on the table 2, 3, 4, 20 choices if you'd like, and then say, well, here's lunch, pick what you want. But then if they want anything off the table, because you've said anything on this table, if they want something that's not on the table, we can't fall into the trap of, okay, we'll have a bite and then I'll get, no, the line was the table. I gave you all these choices with a clear line, okay? And so we want to keep those lines. We want to continue to give the if-thens. We want to continue to give lots of choice in everything they do, but with a very clear boundary. Another example would be, it's time to go. Well, we can't really give them a choice there, but we could say, do you want to carry this toy or do you want me to carry it so we can go? Again, that little choice allows them to feel some control of the situation, and then they will respond. So again, the negative outcomes, timeouts and taking things away. Again, the definition of a timeout, and I can leave you off with that, is the best timeout is a safe loss of everything. So safe, not losing facial contact or contact visually with the caretaker, because then they could be scared. But a safe loss of everything. The best way to think about that is an old car seat. That doesn't mean you have to do that, but it's the best way to think about it, where you can put them in the car seat, they can still see you, but you can totally ignore them and they have no avenue for anything enjoyable. So, but you've warned them ahead of time. If, then, what's going to get them in there? So again, timeouts are great, but any loss that they perceive as negative would be just as good. So, and again, with COVID, how do we summarize that? Again, routines and consistency are always the key to development. And with COVID, we have an opportunity to do that better, but if we're not doing it well, it'll magnify the problems. So I hope that's given a little light on the subject that we're interested in tonight.
That was wonderful, Dr. Tony. One of the positive things from COVID was sure spending a lot of time, as a family unit and really enjoying that time and loving that time. And then there came a time where it was like, okay, that's good. We need to do something else now. But it really was a wonderful opportunity.
Absolutely. No, it was. I have a question, actually, Dr. Tony, regarding one of the big effects of negative effects of the virus on kids is, as we all know, is lack of socialization. Having to stay away from other kids and just stay away from people in general. Obviously, we hope that we're going to be on the tail end of that. My question is there anything that you could recommend to overcome the fact that a lot of these kids can't be around other kids and have that valuable socialization?
Yeah, the classic age where we get most interested is at around 3. So the good news is from 0 to 3, there's not a lot of concern. I mean, it's always nice to see many things, but really it's the parents that are the most important in the first 3 years. Now, we didn't really talk too much between 2 and 3. There's probably the beginning of that process of socialization that we want to teach, but sharing doesn't really come in till about 2.5, give or take, right? Several months. But prior to 2.5, it's the interaction with other kids is good, but really needs a lot of oversight. So, but at around 2.5, 3 years old, that's why I think preschool start at that age, because the social interactions and ability to get along with others and sharing and teamwork and all that really start to make a difference. So I didn't stress that tonight. Thank you for bringing it up, because it starts to really peak at age 3. But I imagine between 2.5 and 3, that would kind of be important. Some of the daycares were open. The YMCA, I think, had programs, but again, you always had to balance the virus exposure versus the interaction. So we haven't pushed too much under 2.5 for increased interaction with other children. It's more about that consistency with the people that are important to them.
All right, thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Tony. It was great seeing you.
Always a pleasure, you guys. Parent of the Year 2014, was it?
I don't know about that, but thank you so much.
Okay.
Thanks, Doc.
Yeah, that was great. Now, something this year has brought up for so many of us is the idea of resilience and how to raise resilient kids in such an uncertain time. Sharon and Krista from Best South Behavioral Health are here to talk about raising resilient children. So important, especially right now, right, ladies?
Yes, good evening, and I'm so excited to talk tonight about building capacity and resilience. Like Mary said, my name is Krista, and I'm joined by Sharon. We are clinical social workers at Best Self in our parent-child interaction therapy program. Liz, you can go ahead and get our worksheet on the screen. And similar to Monday night, our worksheet will be sent to everybody in an email. Sharon will be monitoring the chat, so we'll have time to answer questions at the end. So resilience is the ability to cope with stress caused by challenging situations. Dr. Ann Maston, a leading researcher, describes this as ordinary magic. So I want you to think about strengths and building capacity. And so we know that infants and toddlers and families have the power to cope with stress and adversity. And so we can be really intentional with our interactions, activities, and how we care for ourselves to promote this resilience. And so on a daily basis, parents can build resilience by one, teaching self-care. So really making time for healthy eating and exercise and rest. Giving yourself permission to care for yourself by doing this lets you model this for your young child, that their mind, their body, and their feelings all matter. Research tells us that babies and toddlers watch their caregivers very closely and respond to the feelings of the people around them. So taking care of yourself, especially during COVID right now, is so important. And so routines, just like Dr. Vetrano has been talking about this evening, can really be so helpful for our young kids. And they also can be helpful for us too, to commit to self-care. So really consider starting small. Maybe you've always wanted to develop a yoga practice. So really do 1 minute each day, just sit in that yoga practice. Or maybe you'd like to increase vegetables during dinner. So maybe you add a cucumber to each dinner each night. Your young child then is able to witness your regular commitment to taking care of yourself. The next activity parents can do is really emphasizing the positive. Liz, if you just want to scroll down a little bit. Perfect, thank you. And so really for here, we want to hold and remember these really tender moments that you have with you and your child to help you manage during some of the tougher moments. So you want to think about important family and cultural events, and really remember what that nursery rhyme you enjoyed from your childhood, or maybe your favorite book. We also really want to build a strong parent-child bond. And so our young children thrive with predictable and consistent parent-child interactions. And so our kids from birth to 2 are learning so much about their relationships, their feelings, soothing, and self-control. So we want to respond in a consistent, nurturing way. And so these are called our serve and returns. A really wonderful way to start small is peekaboo. And what's great about peekaboo is it helps you practice separation. So your baby learns that mommy might go away, but she's going to come right back. Our next way you can practice building your child's resilience is nurturing their self-esteem. So each time when we interact with our kids, we have the opportunity to build their self-esteem by celebrating their success and reinforcing positive pro-social behavior. So we can use labeled praises like, thank you for staying calm, or I like that you used your words, or good job playing so gentle with the toys, to help really increase those positive behaviors. We can go to the next page, Liz. Perfect. The next thing we really want to do is help with big emotions. Our young children experience so many of the same emotions that we as adults do, But a major difference in young children is from birth to 3, they lack the self-control and language skills to express their big feelings in ways adults find acceptable. So what this means is that they need the help of their sensitive and caring mom or dad to help them learn about feelings and how to manage them. So really label and talk about feelings. It might feel silly at first to talk about how your baby's feeling, but it's so important to help your child learn to identify and describe her emotions. You can use pretend play to help this. So for example, you could have your teddy bear and be talking about how the teddy bear hit his head and he's feeling sad. Another way you might label feelings is your toddler might be trying to put on their sock and they're getting frustrated. So you might move in close and say, it can be really frustrating to put on socks. And you're going to stay nice and close and give them some space to keep trying. You might notice if they need some extra help and you might say, Mommy can help too. We really want to teach our kids that any emotion is okay and it is okay to feel so that she can learn to express in healthy, non-hurtful ways. And then we're just moving on to spending time in nature. And so really science tells us that nature has the power to grow empathy, creativity, wonder, and well-being. So really think about all the different ways that we can access nature. It might be your patio or your apartment balcony, maybe the Buffalo Zoo, your backyard, or canal side. We want to think about how can we involve our kids in activities like gardening, walking, or even just looking at bugs or insects. The picture that we have on our worksheet is of Tiff Nature Preserve. It's a great local park to go. And really being outside helps to familiarize kids with nature and builds excitement for the outdoors and taking care of our planet. We have plenty of time for questions, so anything is good. You can end the screen share, Liz.
Krista, I'm not seeing any questions just yet, but I wanted to, I know, but I wanted to tap into what you were talking about. And for those who were there, we're here on Monday evening too, and talking about mindfulness as a parent superpower. Yeah. I think one of the beautiful things with so many changes that we've all been going through these past few months is that there's certain very precious kinds of things that adults can do with babies and toddlers that can still happen, even where it seems like so many things have sort of been taken away from us and opportunities, that beautiful opportunity for those day-to-day interactions that truly build brains and build resilience for kids, and also can be very calming and soothing for adults, you know, to be in nature and how important that is with their kids, that those most important interactions can happen in many cases, no matter what. Yeah. So now we do have some questions. How can parents monitor resilience for themselves? What a great question.
So I would be wondering about how present you're able to stay with your child when they're having a big feeling, and you know, how accepting and how kind of what your brain is saying to yourself. And so is it really critical, or is there compassion in how you're talking to yourself? And so that's what I would be really thinking about.
Yeah, sounds great. Another question, from a social worker standpoint, if you were to guide a 3-year-old through having 2 sets of parents, what age do you think would be appropriate for it?
So do you mean like a stepmom and a stepdad?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see you nodding.
Yes. Yes. And so, it's a great question too, because so many, there are many families where not all of the parents or primary caretakers are necessarily under the same roof, right? So I think that's a great question.
So I would be 3, so a little bit older. There are lots of really wonderful stories and books about talking about different families. I think that Librarians are often they're forgotten about, but they're a great resource on really helping to connect families to books. The other website that I really like that I share with families is called Common Sense Media, and it will kind of list different books and websites that will help explain. I point out books because reading is so valuable and really helps our 3-year-olds learn and make sense of what's going on around them. And so because lots of kids and families look different, there's so many great books. So I would start there, and then really just kind of communicating with them in age-appropriate ways that maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays with mommy, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday is with dad. And just like Dr. Vetrano was talking about, using pictures and to help, or that object to help them transition can be really helpful too, knowing that mommy's still there. I can hug my teddy bear or something like that if I'm feeling sad. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that, the question and for the response. Another question, how can we show our kids big emotions are okay if we are prone to getting upset with ourselves?
Yeah, that is a wonderful question, and I think one of the hardest things that lots of moms are asking us when they're in our PCIT program. What's so important is that you recognize that is an area that you really want to improve, because what we know is when we model to our young kids when they're having a tantrum or they're having a negative emotion that we can stay calm, it lets them know that they can be calm too, that they can learn how to be in self-control. I usually encourage parents to come up with a statement that they can say to themselves to try to keep them present in the moment when they're going through a tantrum. So that is where I would encourage you to start off. And so it might be something, on Monday, there were some of those self-compassion statements on the Mindfulness is a Superpower worksheet. And so one of those is, I'm an amazing mom. Their other example was, this is difficult. And so you might be just repeating those statements to yourself to help you get through that big emotion, that tantrum, because those are really normal in toddlers. And then you're modeling that ability to stay calm and really change some of those generational patterns. So, yeah.
Forget that the kids pick up everything from our body language to our words to, whatever we do. How important is it to remember that and keep that in mind when, we want them to not be, judgmental or angry or upset, but they see us being that way.
It is really important because really our reaction to things gives our kids a cue on how to respond. And so we really do want to be mindful about our language and also kind of both our verbal and nonverbal cues too. So it's really critical to remember that you are modeling really emotions, relationships, feelings, behavior for your young child.
Yeah, they don't miss a trick.
No. Which is really one of the strengths about this age group, is that we really can build so much resilience and empower and build development when we're sensitive to this.
Excellent. Any more questions, ladies? All right. Well, thank you so much. That was wonderful, as usual. Appreciate that. I think we're going to sort of circle back a little bit and talk about that, how everyday activities can sort of help with developmental experiences. And Rachel from Western New York Children's Environmental Learning Centers has more on safe green cleaning and how to involve your children. So take a look.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rachel Robertson, and I'm the program coordinator here at the Western New York Children's Environmental Health Center. And this evening, I hope that we can talk about some safe tips for cleaning during the time of COVID-19. So at the Western New York Children's Environmental Health Center, which is located on Niagara Street, our mission is to prevent, diagnose, and treat environmentally related conditions for family across New York State. Environmental exposures can have a lifelong impact on health and well-being of children and their development. And so our goal is just to provide support and education within that. We are a part of the first state-based model for pediatric environmental health services in the country, and New York now has dedicated pediatric champions across the state working together to protect and promote children's health, as well as the environment. So, as I'm sure we all can relate, COVID-19 has truly changed our lives. We are social distancing, which might equal spending more time in our homes. I hope that's what it comes down to. And collectively, we are just more aware of the spread of germs, cleaning and sanitizing, all to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe the best that we can. So this evening, I just wanted to walk through some steps to clean and sanitize your home safely and efficiently. We are constantly learning more about the potential health problems of cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting products if they aren't used by the directions on the label. And some of these chemicals can affect air quality and cause or trigger health problems such as asthma, severe eye irritation, chronic headaches, endocrine disruption. And children are especially vulnerable to these health problems as they are in the early developmental stages of their life. And this is why it's so important to consider our disinfecting and sanitizing products, especially during the time of coronavirus. So some disinfecting action steps. The first step is to clean surfaces using soap and water. And what this does is reduce the number of germs, dirt, and impurities on the surface. So next, you'll want to select a disinfectant such as hydrogen peroxide, correctly diluted household bleach, or any other EPA-approved disinfectant. And with that, you would want to then sanitize the surface. It is important to practice routine cleaning of these high-touch surfaces, so that might include tables, doorknobs, light switches, remotes, phones, our keys and keyboards. Um, so some safety tips, what can we do? First, the person cleaning can wear reusable or disposable gloves for routine cleaning and disinfection. This protects yourself, your skin. Additionally, it is also important to open windows for fresh air and proper ventilation while cleaning and sanitizing. It's equally as important to keep children out of the area when disinfecting. So if this means scheduling a time to clean where the kiddos aren't around, then so be it. That's great. And remember to securely store all cleaning products after sanitation is complete. So because these products can have risks, it is important to choose the safest and most efficient products available. And the EPA just recently released the Safer Choice label, which is continuously evaluating companies and their products for efficiency and safety. So Safer Choice helps us purchasers find products that perform and contain ingredients that are safer for humans and the environment. So before a product can carry the Safer Choice label, the EPA reviews all chemical ingredients regardless of their percentage in the product. And every ingredient must meet their strict safety criteria. So I encourage you, just the next time you're at the store looking for disinfecting products, take a look at what products have this label and maybe products that don't. So here is just a bleach dilution recipe and just some points of safety here. Do not use industrial strength bleach if this is your disinfectant of choice, and never mix bleach and ammonia or any other cleanser as it can create toxic fumes. And the same safety protocols apply here. Open the windows for fresh air and ventilation, wear gloves, and dilute it carefully. You could use a funnel to carefully dilute the bleach into cool water. And also make a fresh batch daily as it can lose strength over time. And here is just a nice bleach dilution recipe from our center. Another note is when you put this dilution recipe into a spray bottle, use the stream setting and avoid using the mist setting. Next, here we have an all-purpose cleaner recipe, which can be utilized for routine cleaning, and this can consist of 1 cup of warm water, 3 drops of unscented liquid soap, and half a cup of white vinegar. You can mix these ingredients in an empty spray bottle and use to clean various surfaces within your home. You can utilize a microfiber towel or paper towel, and it is important to set the spray bottle on stream setting here as well. So here at the center, we have prescription for prevention, and here is one of our green cleaning prescription for preventions. You'll see on your screen a nice little QR code there, and if you hold up your cell phone camera to this QR code, it'll take you directly to our site where you can access this resource. And the same goes here for our COVID-19 Safer Disinfecting Your Home. If you scan your camera, hold your camera up to the scanner QR code, it'll bring you right to this resource. So thank you so much for your time. I hope that you got something valuable from this presentation. If anything, I hope it served as a reminder of the safety tips and tricks we can keep in mind when sanitizing our homes to keep ourselves and our families healthy. Please, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me. My email is listed on the slide here. And as I mentioned, here at the Western New York Children's Environmental Health Center, we have plenty of resources, so please reach out to me. I'd be happy to share those with you. And yes, just thank you so much for this opportunity. I hope you enjoy the rest of the expo.
Thank you so much, Rachel. That was great information there. And to close our evening, we have Jamie Rackle. Is that Rackle? Did I pronounce that correctly? Yes, EPIC's Director of Family Engagement. She's going to share about EPIC's literacy programs and how literacy is so much more than just reading books. Isn't that correct, Jamie?
It is, absolutely. So family engagement is this really interesting concept. It really reminds me of the quote, "It takes a village to raise a child." So we're working with families and childcare providers, schools, hospitals, all with the intention of helping children be as successful as possible. And one of the ways that we do that is we focus on literacy skills. And so we have a couple of different programs. In fact, Scott, you joined us for more than one of them. You were with us for Storytime at Canalside, where we
love Storytime.
Yeah, we choose a theme, and we offer families the opportunity to engage in the book and then an art project that's connected, usually a STEM activity, and even movement for little kiddos, because all of those things help kids develop literacy skills. They're all a part of the package. It's not just reading a book to a child. They have wiggles, and we need to develop small motor skills and large motor skills, and we want to, encourage children to think critically and to be creative, and all of those things sort of come together to create literacy skills. So we do Storytime at Canalside, and then we also, that happens in the summer at the water, and then we do Storytime Grows Up, and that's at the Superman block. If you're in Buffalo, did you know we had a Superman block? We have the corner of Clark and Kent, right next to the Broadway Market. There's a beautiful green space. So when the weather is nice, there we go. When the weather is nice, we're outside. And again, offering families the opportunity to engage in literacy and movement with their children. And this year we did some things differently. We've incorporated interpreters. So we're reading our books in multiple languages to get children sort of, thinking about diversity and inclusion and making sure all of our neighbors in Buffalo can benefit from Storytime. And we're also partnered with Deaf Access Services. And so we're able to sign for families. So if we have children or parents who have hearing impairment, we're able to still, connect them and serve them with literacy programming. And then we do Ready, Set, Read, which is probably nearest and dearest to my heart. It is a literacy program. It's 5 sessions, and it's focused on teaching families and parents and caregivers how to develop literacy skills with children. So you don't have to wait until kiddos are in school to start that process. And again, it's not just sitting down and reading a book, because who has time for that right now, right? It's taking your kiddos, take a deep breath here. It's taking your kiddos to the grocery store with you and having them, pick out the yellow cereal box or the cereal box with the CH sound on it, and using, everyday tasks to help develop literacy skills, but also learning some more serious things like what is phonemic awareness and how does that help your child learn to read? And, additionally, what kind of learner is your child? Are they auditory? Are they visual? Are they, a movement kiddo? Are they more kinesthetic? Knowing those things can help you as a caretaker and a parent sort of direct their learning in a way where it's going to be really helpful and enjoyable. And then we kind of move forward, and that program is beautiful because we can work with families of all different reading levels. So we've had great success with families who are new to English as another language. We've had success with, families who maybe the parents or caretakers aren't strong readers. And we also have had, parents who are passionate readers, but kiddos do not come with an instruction manual, and they definitely don't come with a book on how to teach your kid how to read. And so we like to provide those kinds of supports and services for families. And we know that children who enter kindergarten with a readiness, sort of those sight words and the letter recognition have really long-term successful outcomes later in life. They're more likely to advance, for grade level. They're more likely to graduate on time. They actually have less, fewer instances of absences. They're, more socially and emotionally developed. There's just lots of great reasons to get those little tiny people, used to literacy skills when they're small, so that they love it later on in life. Yay. Does anyone have any questions about either of those programs? Anything else that you'd like to learn about or hear about with Epic? I'll talk about this forever, folks. I mean, I won't keep you past 7:30, but something that I feel really
personally, the Storytime series down at Canal Side, I've been part of it this past summer and the summer before. It's a really wonderful event, and you guys do a great job with it. And if you haven't had a chance to check it out, please do so. It's very valuable.
Yeah, and actually, thank you for bringing that up, Scott, because if you missed it and are feeling like, man, that stinks, fear not. We have put everything on our YouTube page, and actually Storytime in your neighborhood streams live on Facebook. So you can join us. The next one is actually next week. You can join us live on Facebook. And if that's not a convenient time for you, or you'd like to save that for a bedtime or maybe a Saturday when, the weather's not that great, tune in, check out our website and our YouTube channel. All of that can be found, coming off of our website, and it actually is connected to the Parenting Doesn't Stop project. You'll find our link to the YouTube channel, and you can watch the literacy videos, the Storytime videos, and tons more content. I'm sure you've, sort of chatted about that. There's just great stuff there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I love your passion. It's like contagious. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great night. Thanks. And what a perfect segue into our prize giveaways. Are you guys ready to win some prizes? We have, listen, I know, right? Yeah, dance. Come on, everybody. Can everybody do a little dancing? There we go. Dr. Tony, come on. We want to see you. All right. Well, our first prize is, ready, an Epic dinner kit and literacy pack. It is so full of goodies for you, multiple books, cards, craft supplies, articles, and more. Epic's got a video up on their YouTube and social channels about everything that's in these kits. And right now, we're going to announce our winner, and got it sent to me from
Drum roll. The winner is.
The winner is Taylor G.
Taylor G.
Congratulations, Taylor. That is awesome. But wait, there's more. Since we talked potty training a little bit tonight, every participant this evening is winning their very own take and go potty seat.
All right.
How great. I feel like Oprah. You get a potty seat, and you get a potty seat, and you get a potty seat. You all get a potty seat. These things are game changers, though. Even if right now we're not actually going many places, they're a great thing to have and come in so handy. So everybody wins one of those. Congratulations. Please email Liz Vetrano. She's Epic's Director of Development and Marketing, and she will help you coordinate picking up your prize. Her email can be found right in the chat. Thank you all so much for joining us for night 3 of the Expo. Tomorrow is the grand finale. We'll be back.
We'll be back.
Well, I'll be back. You actually have soccer with Ella.
It is Ella's last practice.
Our daughter,
yes.
so he won't be back, but I will be back, and there will be more prizes, including a deluxe all stages car seat, gift certificates to Roly Polies and Yoga Parkside, and more. We will see you tomorrow. Same link, same time.
Same station.
And it is same bat something or other, right? It is all about shopping and play tomorrow. So we will see you then. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night.
You.
Bye, Dr. Tony.